everyone. Welcome to the Wine Styles Ankeny 10-minute tasting. Today, in honor of National Rosé Day, we're going to be discussing all things rosé. So you've heard a lot of sayings recently with let's rosé all day, yes way rosé. Rosé came on the scene a couple of years ago and is still going strong. And it happens to be one of my favorite wines. So we're excited to bring some different information to you that you may not know about rosés today. So, Cheyenne, sometimes there's a misconception that rosés are just mixing red and white wines together to get the beautiful pink color like you see here. Is that how rosés are made?
No, it's not. And anybody that tells you it is very wrong. So any reputable rosé is going to be made through a traditional winemaking technique that I'll let Paul kind of go over. But essentially, it's allowing the grapes or the grape juice to sit in contact with the skin, and it allows a lot of the tannins from the skins to get onto the juice, but not necessarily give it the full body that it does when you're drinking a red wine. There's a lot of different grapes that people are very surprised when they find out make rosé, such as Pinot Noir and Syrah and Grenache. And one of the examples that we have today is actually made out of Tempranillo, which is very popular over in Spain. And another misconception with rosé is that it's sweet. The particular one that we're going to be trying is not sweet at all. It's bone dry, as it should be. And I think a lot of that has to do with the whole white zin situation. How exactly is rosé made, and what's the history behind it?
Well, Mindy said that rosé just came on the scene a couple of years ago, and although that is true, it is also untrue in another way. Actually, rosé has been made for thousands of years. It actually arguably originated in Provence, so southern France, in a particular style to make a dry but still fruity and refreshing wine. Again, perfect for summer. It is one of the largest growth segments in the wine industry in the United States over the past few years. I think because we've all learned a little bit more about it and recognized that it doesn't have to be the sweet, sticky white Zinfandel that came out it was actually a mistake in California where the fermentation got stuck, and they were stuck with thousands of gallons of a very pink, very sweet Zinfandel that you really couldn't call Zinfandel, so they took a chance and labeled it and bottled it. It wasn't bad wine, it was actually fine, but it took off and it was actually one of their largest selling wines, and has been ever since. So.
And I think another great thing about rosé and what's helped it kind of grow, like you've said, is because when people actually try it, they'll realize it's not just a, what I kind of say, like a ladies' patio wine, which is, it's perfect, ladies, for the patio, but it pairs so well with food.
Oh, it's like any crisp white wine. I mean, just because it's pink in color, I think that's where the stereotype gets settled in, is the color. And the color from any wine comes from the skins, as Cheyenne was saying. So rosés are made from red grapes. You can't make a rosé from a white grape because there's no color pigment in the skin of a white grape. And all grapes, except for a couple of varietals, have no color in the pulp and in the juice. So you're not going to get color from the juice, you get it from the skins. And so how you can make a pink Pinot Noir is you just don't allow the juice to be in contact with the skins for very long. So a traditional red wine, a Pinot Noir or a Cabernet Sauvignon, the whole fermentation is done in contact with the skins. So the skins are in the vat with the grape juice that's fermenting, and as the alcohol level goes up, the alcohol acts as a solvent, and it actually brings out those pigments in the skin, and that's where you get the deep red color. So rosé, the skins stay in contact for just a very short period of time. So it could be just a couple of hours or up to 12 hours, and that's going to vary the color of the final product. So this Spanish rosé obviously was in contact with the skins for quite a bit longer than this Provence French rosé. And it does change the taste a little bit. You do get a little bit more of the tannins and phenols from the skin if it's darker. But the traditional way is red grape, leave it in contact for just a short period of time.
Yeah, our Provence one happens to be Grenache, Cinsault, and Syrah, so a blend of three very common French varietals.
There's actually another technique that's interesting, and the winemakers sometimes don't set out to make a rosé, but say the vintage, the grapes are a little bit lighter than they want for your Zinfandel or your Cabernet. There's a technique called saunier, which in French means to bleed, where they start the fermentation on the skins. They let it go a little ways, but then they bleed off a small amount of the juice while it's still pink. So what that does is it produces a rosé. They finish the fermentation as a rosé, but it also concentrates what's left in the vat with the red skins. So you get a bolder red wine, and you get a nice, beautiful rosé out of the same batch of grapes. So another very legitimate way, and as Cheyenne said, totally not legit to add food coloring or even natural colorings to the wine to make it a rosé, or mix them in a test tube.
Absolutely. Yeah, this Tempranillo, and Tempranillo has a little bit darker skins too, so hence partially the reason for the darker color. But as you mentioned, Paul, the flavor profile, because this one is, if you remember the Cheyenne, a little bit creamier, a little bit heavier mouthfeel too, versus the lighter color, because it hasn't picked up the tannins and those phenols from the skins.
More red characteristics, I guess you could say, than white characteristics.
Absolutely. Well, this is one of our personal favorites that we're drinking. It's one of our customer favorites too. I'm going to attempt my French, Fleur de Prairie, which actually stands for the wildflower, and it's a beautiful bottle, so it's a beautiful gifting bottle as well. And they really wanted to make this in essence of the wildflowered fields that you would see throughout Provence, and I think it really kind of transports you when you're drinking it to someplace else. It's so elegant and such a just smooth drinking, beautiful wine.
So if you subscribe to the stereotype that rosés are, patio wines for sweet drinkers, I would say it would be worth trying this Fleur de Prairie. If you're a Sauvignon Blanc drinker, if you're a Burgundy style Chardonnay drinker, this is just every bit as full-bodied and flavorful as any of the wines that we consider the popular white wines.
Absolutely. And like I mentioned, we're seeing it more and more on wine lists too, because of the pairing with foods. So going with oysters or scallops or any whitefish would be phenomenal.
And speaking of which, with the Burgundy whites and the Sauv Blancs, this is actually my favorite wine to pair with a spicy sushi, just because it still has a little bit of body to it, but it's so refreshing.
Absolutely.
And it's just phenomenal. They actually have it on the wine list over at Wasabi, so every time I'm there I get a glass of food.
I agree. This is perfect because again it retains a really beautiful acid level, which makes it a good food wine. Anytime you're going to have wine with food, you really want to have a wine that has a proper acid balance. If there's not enough acidity and it's flat, it's just not going to enhance the food, and the food is not going to enhance the wine, which is really the idea of wine pairing. Is both the wine should enhance the food and the food should enhance the wine. I would have this with a steak. No problem. This would be phenomenal with a grilled steak and some fresh sautéed vegetables. The old rule that only Cabernet with steak, just I don't ascribe to it. I think this would work just fine.
Yeah, and this one might even work a little bit better just because a little more of the creaminess too.
Absolutely.
Speaking of steak, actually a lot of wine experts are starting to say, actually, instead of just pairing cab with your surf and turf, start pairing rosés, because then you get the best of both worlds. You get the creaminess and the tannins from the skins of the grape, but you also get the refreshing lightness, so it goes perfect with your surf and turf.
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely.
Well, now that we're all hungry and wanting to go home and grill.
Yes. Well, we have a pretty decent selection of rosés, constantly changing. We have essentially ones for every different flavor profile, whether you like them more crisp, refreshing, light like the Provence style, or a little bit heavier like the Tempranillo one that we have here. So please help us celebrate National Rosé Day and grab a bottle or grab a glass and just enjoy the beautiful summer that's out there. And I would say, yes way rosé. Well, thank you for joining us again for our 10-minute tasting. We look forward to talking to you again soon.